Hey everybody, Mike Iaconelli out here in the shop, and I want to talk to you about one of my favorite types of lures, one of my favorite ways to catch bass. Topwater fishing, a topwater. Especially now. Right now we're post-spawn, heading into summer, and in my opinion, it is the single best time of the year to catch fish on a topwater. You know, there's a lot of different types of topwaters: frogs, buzz baits, poppers, prop baits. But in my opinion, one of the most versatile, especially this time of the year, is a walking bait, a stick bait. It's phenomenal because you can cover a lot of water, you can really make it walk, elicit a reaction strike, and the fish just seem to love it during this time of the year. A lot of good ones out there, but if you look, this is one of my favorites. This is a Rapala Skitter V. And they call it a Skitter V because I want you to take a look at the belly on that thing. And if you look at it, it's not round like a cigar, like a normal stick bait. It's actually got a V-shaped keel across the whole bottom. It's got a V-shaped keel. And you know, really what that does, if you think about it, sort of looks like the keel on a boat. And that helps this bait stay stable and helps you with that walking motion, that side-to-side walking motion. So really cool design. But I want to talk to you about a couple modifications that I make to make this bait walk better and to get you more hookups, to catch you more fish. Topwater sometimes seems like it's a bait where you miss them. This stuff's going to help you out, okay? So the first tip is how to get the bait to walk better. I want you to look at the nose of that bait. Look at the eye, and you're going to say, man, what is that? Why, Mike, why are you forgetting to cut the knots off of that? And the answer is, I purposely leave knots on the eye of that bait. And you know, my rule is about 4 to 6 knots. And a lot of times I'll just tie on. I'll just get little pieces of mono or braid and I'll tie them on there. And 4 to 6 knots is going to cover the bottom half of that eye. And I leave them on there on purpose. So now when I tie my line on there, braid or mono, it doesn't matter, it's going to keep my knot that I'm fishing with above the halfway point on that eye. And by keeping your line up, it's going to keep that bait a little nose up, and it's going to help you walk it side to side. If you don't have that there, your knot wants to slip down, and it wants to put it nose down, and it's a lot harder to walk because it digs. So leaving 4 to 6 knots tied on there won't affect your strike ratio, keeps that bait more nose up, and it'll help you walk it real easy. So cool little tip number 1. Tip number 2 involves changing the hooks on a factory bait. And I like to upsize my hooks, and I use VMC short shank trebles. And I make 2 different modifications to this. The first one's on that belly hook. And I've always been a big believer in feathered trebles, dressed trebles, to get more bites. But on this stick bait, instead of putting that treble on the tail, you ready for this? I'm going to put that dressed treble on the belly of that bait. This is a modification I've seen used in Japan, and it really, really works. So I'm going to show you here real quick. I'll get that one started. Get that started on the O-ring. I get my next one, and this happens to be a size 2. So I'm going to really upsize. But again, it's a short shank treble. So when you're using those VMC short shanks, you can upsize. And there it goes. Feathered treble on the belly instead of the tail. And what that's going to do is it's going to make the focal point of that bait. When you're walking it, and then you kill it, and all of a sudden that fish is looking at it. He sees the flare of that feather, and he attacks that point, which is the central point of the bait, not the back. So you're going to get way more hookups by putting it on the belly. And then the last upgrade I'm going to make is on the tail. And I'm really going to upsize. I'm going to go 2 sizes up on this tail. And I'm going to go to a big number 1 on the back. And I want you to watch this thing. Again, it's a VMC short shank, so you can get away with the big hook. This is a 1X strong. And that really big 1X hook is going to act as a little bit of a back counterweight. In addition to that ball that's in there, it's going to help that bait sit tail down. And so when I'm walking it, it's going to walk easier, but on the paws, that feather's going to be expanding on the belly. That bigger size treble on the tail is going to pull that back end down a little. And when that fish comes up and gets it, he's going to get all hooks. Stick baits, walking baits, post-spawn summertime, it's a great way to catch bass. Use some of these tips. Try that knot tip on the front to help your bait walk. Try that feather on the belly to get more hookups. And last but not least, go to that big short shank on the tail to keep it tail down. And I promise you, you're going to get more bites and you're going to catch more fish. Mike Iaconelli talking about Topwaters, the Rapala Skidder V, out here in the shop.